Hello and welcome to a new episode at Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, Ahmed Assaf, and today we have an amazing guest, Dr. Theofanis. How are you today?
Pretty good. Nice to meet you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Today with our doctor, we will be discussing three topics, which is everyone is looking for, which is the creativity and the trust and the value. And from the doctor's perspective, he mixed all those three concepts together to come up with this complete new concept. So if we could start talking about the trust, doctor, what would be your definition of that trust?
Trust is an element that every moment in our life is present. We don't realize it, but the whole success of the human species is based on trust. And our whole civilization sits on the bedrock of trust. And let me explain why.
Yes, please.
Because we trust every step we take in life, every moment in life, we trust something. We trust the taxi driver that he's going to show up and take us to the right place. We trust the doctor that he will operate on us properly. We trust the aeroplane that will take off the ground and reach the destination and come down. Blindly, we know no one of these people driving the aeroplane. We don't know if the taxi driver is to be trusted or trustworthy or legally covered or not, but we trust this process. So everything that now there is a trick here. The more trust increases, the more quality of life increases, value created increases, happiness is there. The more trust decreases, things are more competitive, things are cost much, and therefore value is decreased, and therefore we all are happy and we are competitive. To get just one idea of how trust affects things.
Yes, please.
9/11, right? When 9/11 happened, it hit four buildings, including, because of that, airports had to increase security.
Yes.
Only in the US, only in the airports, because this event affected security issues everywhere, which means lack of trust, right? That's lack of trust. It costs $7.3 billion annually spent in the US only for security airport because of the reduction of trust due to 9/11. Imagine what a decrease in quality of life that has, a decrease in trusting people to do things. Okay? So trust is that critical in making companies successful, making individuals have a good standard of living. And that's what attracted me to it. And I went on to look at companies because, my PhD is from Virginia Tech in marketing, in strategy, specifically in consumer behavior. And what has happened there is that I noticed that companies, based on the trust levels they establish, either internally with their employees or externally with their customers and suppliers, have more or less better or worse result, create more or less value for them. And trust is so critical that I wanted to get more involved. In the last 5 years, I'm focused on trust and how it affects business. Mm-hmm. And that's how I set up the course at the American University. And we have this conference every year. We have the student projects that are going public and all this work, because we're trying to focus on that. And I'll tell you one thing that amazes me. Sure. It's not only that the universities don't have trust courses, it is also that the companies in their annual plan, they don't have a component that says, this is how we're going to deal with the trust that we need to have to increase our competitiveness, to improve our value. Trust is more of a kind of an emotional thing. Well, trust is some little bit has to do with loyalty, but there is no specific plan with a budget, with specific actions, and with specific support system to say, I'm going to take my trust of this level 20% up this coming year. And I think companies that will adopt such a process will see a great changes in longevity and immediate results.
And here you're talking the trust between the company and the end user, right?
Right.
And if we could go deeper with the trust and talk about, because I think from my perspective, the trust starts from within us, from every person. It's called the self-trust. And then it will be translated to relationships trust, right?
Right. To a large extent, yes.
Yeah. So yeah,
I just want to add something to this.
sure.
When we're children, that has to do with self-trust. Okay,
Yes.
When we are children, we don't know, right? We don't know where to walk, what to do. I mean, we know nothing. We're 1 year old, we don't know. So our parents and society tells us things. You take the bus that time. You light the fire there. You don't talk to people like that. You go and eat then. And when we learn things, they put little boxes of information. And these boxes of information may make us feel more trusting in our decisions because we have training. They told us what to do. Okay, this is good up to the 30s.
To the 30s?
After the 30s, age of 30.
Okay.
Because you learn and you trust yourself because you know what society expects from you, right? It's self-trust based on an external factor. After 30, the path changes. These boxes of social expectations are being challenged. And people start to adjust their decisions based on what fits them and what they are good at and how they can manage things. And then self-trust really becomes internal self-trust and not external self-trust. Okay? So trust comes from within and not from outside of us. And that's when you start making the big steps and start making more effectively your work and your path in life.
Okay, so this trust, how you've been raised, and which is out of your control somehow, at a certain level, it's affecting all aspects of your life, on the professional level, on the leadership, on creativity and personal values. But if we're talking to someone, he's in a certain age, like between 30 to 40, let's say, and he have this lack of trust. So is there a possibility or practical steps how to impress the self-trust and just move forward, and just because there's lots of uncertainty in this world. So what would be a practical way to overcome this issue?
Trust and self-trust
Yes.
becomes from knowing our boundaries, knowing that is what we can do and what we cannot do. Also what we like to do and what we don't like to do. These two things, right? Can do and like to do. And the only way, because we grow up with guidelines, you will go to the university, you will study that, you will not become a comedian, whatever. Because of that, we need to make this shift to what we like. And the only way to understand what we like is to take risk, to start doing things we don't usually do, we don't normally do, and the boxes are not suggesting to do. By doing these experiments every time and taking these risks, we get feedback about who we are really. And once you start understanding who you are, you get self-trust.
Perfect. So if we get to talking with someone, he started making those steps and he starts stepping out from the comfort zone, because most of us is just waiting in the comfort zone and waiting for the change, and it will never happen there. So, and that's what's stopping us from creativity. And either of the two camps, either you'll be creative or disintegrate. So today we'll be talking more, because let's say we talk a little bit more about the trust now. I don't want to live that simple life. Just I went to school and then university and then I have my job and have this limited life. I want to be more creative. I want to do like a purposeful thing. So from your perspective, what is the creativity in your mind?
Creativity is providing solutions that never thought, and no one ever thought. And this, of course, it's immediately, what we call differential advantage. It's the big steps happen that way, right? Like creative ideas, including, physics, including medicine, including business. And we've seen that a lot happening in our times because of the multi-potentiality of the technology we have and the know-how. There are possibilities to combine things and be more creative. Now, creativity happens when we feel safe. We should feel safe to think crazy. We feel safe to, that's why quite often great ideas come in the shower, because we're isolated and very safe in there. So, of course, creativity sits on trust, self-trust and environment trust. I cannot be in my company and being criticized all the time, and then they tell me, you know, throw a few ideas how to solve this problem. I'm not going to say anything. I feel at risk. What if my idea is not good? So creating a safe environment, and that's why the process of creativity, when it is in a professional environment and has to do with a team trying to find a creative solution, has to do with gathering all in a room, right? Closing phones, everything, and saying, well, this is the problem, setting the problem down. One person takes notes, and the rest throw things around. It could be crazy, it could be whatever, that's the idea, just throw it. There must be no evaluation, there must be no criticism. You cannot think if this will work when you're becoming creative. This is phase 2 in another meeting. So that the environment must be safe, so you can say anything, and they make it more safe by not criticizing and not evaluating at that point the ideas that are set on the table.
And how
so,
yeah, continue, please.
Yeah,
and
so
I want to connect
process,
now the trust with the creativity. So how can the self-trust enhance the creativity? Because we've seen, like, I was talking about the Middle East, just every like 5 or 6 years, you see something creative or something new. But usually, if you look back in the last 100 years, there's lots of inventions and lots of new things. So why it's not continuously going on? What's your insight about the area of that?
let's face it. I mean, in the United States, has a very creative environment. Where, you know, if you look at Europe has a semi-creative environment. I think if you go into Middle East, you go a lot lower. And the reason is because the culture and the political system and the whole setup that affects business and individuals, okay, is very structured. I think in the Middle East, to the extent that I've been there and I've seen it, I'm not an expert, it's very, very structured environment, very strict expectation, a lot of rules. So there is no room to take a risk, right? In Europe, it's more, but Europe has a strong history. And for that reason, it still has cultural, psychological structures of expectations. What you can do, you dress more properly, you do. United States is a very open game. And that's why almost all new ideas come from the United States, not all, but in a much faster rate than it does in other countries. What stops, therefore, is the lack of open and safe environment, the lack of trust. And that open environment does not exist when the society doesn't trust everybody. And I'll give you, this is a philosophy. There is a philosophy behind this. There's a worldview behind this. And the worldview says the following: there are 2 ways to view the world. One is the zero-sum game. There is so much food on the table. If I take 2 slices of pizza, you're going to get 1 less. Because there's 1 pizza, the world is 1 pizza, we have to share it. So. And this was true until the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution, which started slowly decreasing the importance. Now, the other worldview is, you know what, guys? The world is not a pizza. It's how much of a pizza we make and how much we can make. And the more we cooperate, the more I share, the more transparent I am, the more pizza we can make, larger, bigger, more tasty. And that immediately changes the whole way of doing things. One last thing on this, how it like to make it more clear. Farmers, which is the old traditional production for thousands of years, don't like neighbors, don't need neighbors. They don't get help from neighbors. What the neighbor may only do, the guy next door, is steal some of his sheep, or take a piece of his land, or take the water from and divert it to his. They can cooperate. So there is war. There, they all have guns, like you know, the Hollywood movies about the Wild Wild West. They all have guns. They all fight each other. Cities are a different game. In the cities, each one cannot survive. You're a doctor. You need to eat. You need to transport yourself. You need someone to build a house. So in the cities, the interdependency and the creativity is much higher because there is complexity, there are many things that play a role, and there is specialization. Okay, so countries that are more towards the farming concept, that zero-sum game, there's so much in the world, and we have split it, they are more authoritarian, they're more structured, they're more rule-based. Countries that believe that we can make this bigger, open the possibilities, give the opportunities. I mean by their legal system and their social values. And that's why I think you see this discrepancy between countries, etc.
Mm-hmm. So I can understand, like, to summarize it a little bit, is to get to that point of creativity, first it starts with self-trust, and it's a choice at the end. You could just be there, or you can be just disintegrating. So it starts with, like, first understanding the cases and as a conscious level, and through studies, just understanding yourself, understanding the situation, what's going on. And then you have the faith to change and create a solution for that problem. And this will get you to the point that you're a well-being, you're enjoying the life somehow, and you feel the meaning of what you're doing. There's a purposeful mind and meaningful life. So this will get you to the point of accelerating and just being more creative, and get you to the point of just enjoying that life and making a fulfilling life. And that will get you to the point of creativity and innovation. And here is the point, is we'll get to the point of the value, because let's say most of the people are chasing money, which is the symptom, but the cause is the value. So just from my perspective, trust provides value, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll agree with you.
yeah. So if we could just elaborate more about that, and the necessity of concentrating, if we can think of 10xing the value instead thinking of the money, which is the symptom.
Right. Okay.
Or even a
Right.
company, in a business, whatever they are doing, they're concentrating on the sales, but they're not concentrating maybe on the value.
Very right. What is value?
Yes.
Let's start with that. Value is what I get versus what I give. Do I get more than I give? So if it costs me something $10, I get more energy than $10. But as much as I work to make $10, what I get more is more than the time I put into it. So it has to do with that. So value increases when costs increase or benefits increase, right? These two things. Now let's look at trust. What trust does in a company? Trust says that when I see you, if we work together, Ahmed, we sit on the table, we discuss, we'll say, this is our product, this is what, after we brainstorm it, we have some ideas, we'll say, you will take that part, and I'll take that part. And because I trust you very well, I don't spend time monitoring you. I don't spend time supervising you. I don't spend time coming and checking on you, right? So my cost is largely reduced. Okay, it's what we were saying about for example, the 9/11. In the 9/11, there was a security that was light because they trusted people wouldn't do anything. Now they don't trust people, they won't do anything, and that increases the cost dramatically. So trust has that thing. The same thing it has with the customers. Why do companies like Coca-Cola and a person like Elon Musk set up a new product and they don't advertise? Especially Elon Musk doesn't advertise anything. He says, I'm doing cars, and people buy them. Jobs did that to a large extent, eventually. At the beginning, he was advertising more. Then he was announcing. That was enough. Why people buy it? Because they trust him, which means they do not go through the additional cost of checking it out, talking to friends, reading articles. The trust, when trust exists, costs are reduced dramatically. And that's why value increases, again, dramatically. I'll tell you another example on this.
Sure.
There is a company, there were two telephone companies in Armenia, one of Russian origin and one of Armenian origin, that joined, make a bigger company, the best company. After a few years of being together, the owners of the Armenian side of the company wanted to split. They didn't get together, so they said, we're leaving, and we will start a new company. Out of the 2,000 employees, 500, because they trusted them, said, we're coming with you. They responded. He said, it's spring. We do not know, we don't have the money to pay you. The company will start in September. Okay, we can do that. He said, we don't care. We'll stay with you. They paid some people, some waited, some this, that. They started needing the company in September, and they started with all 500 and doing very well. You know what? What is the value they got? How much the cost was reduced by having these people trust them? I'll tell you what the numbers are. They don't have to do screening. They don't have to do interviewing. They don't have to do evaluating. They don't have to do all these things. They don't do team building, training. If you look at research on that, they say that for lower personnel, the cost of hiring and substituting someone is an annual salary. For seniors, 4 annual salaries. If these people were getting only 10,000 a year, 500, 5 million. He didn't spend 5 million to have these people there.
Because of trust. And at the same time, the value also that they trust the company. So now if we're talking about this interconnection between those three keywords, the creativity, the trust, and the value, how they can reinforce each other.
The trust is the need for creativity, because creativity sits on the safety of trust. Okay, and in a company that builds that trust level has the luxury to be more creative, and as a result of that, create value.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, when you do your annual plan, you need to look at marketing mix. We have the marketing mix, right? Which is value. Marketing mix is value. Product, price, place, promotion is what provides value, right? Delivers the product at the right price with the right characteristics, okay? Now, there's no mention of trust there. There is no mention of trust. We're not taking into account the level of trust that will change all 4 elements of the marketing mix. So the first thing to do is put on our budget trust. Put it in our annual marketing plan as a factor, not only as a thing that we'll do in the meetings and all that. And we like to say we trust people. So set it up, put a budget on it, set the team that will manage it. Okay. So you build the trust internally and externally, and you have it in your annual plan and budget. Okay? It has its own budget.
You're showing like a framework to build all that together, or a model?
Right. And you do that as not as part of other things. You do it as the foundation where your company sits on, which means your marketing department sits on, your finance department sits on. And when they sit on the same trust framework, they not only trust each other, they can cooperate easily. Because the main problem in companies is what? Finance doesn't talk to marketing. Yeah. Right? Production doesn't talk to IT.
That's what I was going to ask you about, the potential challenges of developing the trust, creativity, and value simultaneously. What would be like the challenges? Because it couldn't be as simple as that.
It's a very difficult thing. I mean, the most difficult thing in a company is to change what they do, right? It's difficult to adapt that. When we say building trust, means that we have to identify 3 elements on people and build 3 elements of people. Build their ability, build their transparency, and build their intentions. Okay, those two things. How do you do that? How do you get them? Because anyone that walks into a company is suspicious. Who is, here going to evaluate me? Why are they going to do that? And let me make not mistakes, not make things right. Let me make not mistakes. I mean, that's more of a mentality than make things right, because that's risky. So what you do as a manager and as a company, you start by being transparent. Means you have to show what you're thinking. If you're managing a team, tell them what you're thinking. On your first meeting, talk more about you and ask a little things about them. Let them to know you. Let them to how you think professionally. Let them say to who you refer, so they feel that it's okay. Tell them your weaknesses, so they feel that it's okay for them to open up. It'll take a couple of months, but slowly they start opening up. Second thing you do, at the beginning you do it, but gradually will grow. You delegate. You give them assignments independently, small, that you think they can do, and you tell them, this is it. Don't come to me don't come to me. I'm not going to monitor it. I'm going to check you. I want you on Thursday to bring it. Okay. If you have any questions, call me. But I'm not going to monitor you. I'm not going to look at you. Right. Just call me. So that immediately says, this guy trusts me. Okay? And the third thing, call them all, call your team, and go on a Saturday somewhere and play football and drink some wine and talk non-business and get to know each other.
Connection.
I'll say something that Harari really promoted, and I think it's valuable, that relates to this. The number one element of trust sits on familiarity. Chimpanzees, for example, the maximum group they can have as a team is 150, because over that, they don't know the people enough. They're not familiar, so they can make larger groups. We have millions because we build familiarity, for example, with religion, with laws, with culture, and we build on that. That's why we change hands. But familiarity is the number one. That's why advertising has many repetitions, to create familiarity. Then we start trusting. So that's why you want to take them out and spend time with them and open up, because you see them more holistically. You see them as human beings and not only as business people or employees. And that bonding becomes by default. So familiarity, being with them, spending time, enjoying the time. I mean, it has to be fun. It's okay. It will take you there. It takes about 3 to 6 months to because I've done this process quite often. I mean, it takes 3 to 6 months to take a team to that level.
Amazing. So now if we tell the audience how they could make like a practical those steps, or just suggest an exercises to develop and improve their trust, their creativity, and giving value, and that how they could affect and impact their personal and professional life.
I'll tell you what, when you have a team, you meet them regularly. And you talk to them regularly, 2 at least times a week privately, right? And then go by their office, go there, have them come to you. Don't do it only one way. Don't only come to you, go there, do that mix, right? So it has to be more open and free. You keep doing that 2, 3 times a week. You keep assigning projects every week. I don't know, it depends on the company now what you're going to assign, but you assign it and you give feedback. 2 positive, of course, 1 negative, but you give feedback on those things. And you start building the social part slowly as well. This can be corporate driven, it can be private driven. You can take three of your employees, let's go and have a beer. Okay, it's all right. I mean, you can do that. So this is we need to view more the business, I think, as a social event than as a production event. Once the business environment becomes a social environment, it is very productive, very trustful, and very bonding. I was yesterday, actually, I was in a restaurant and I came in late. It was closing at 11. I was left alone. And I saw how the waiters and the cooks, and they were laughing. They were thinking, and I said, all right. And that restaurant was recommended to me by someone local here because I didn't know where to go. He said, oh, you're going to go, you go to Nono's. I said, all right, I'm going to Nono's. And then I had an excellent food. I had excellent service. And then I understood why.
Because of the
And, I've been to restaurants where they don't talk to each other.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
I'm sure you've been to such a restaurant.
it's an enjoying environment. That's the so essential and necessity for any company. And if we could talk also about necessity of having a creative department, which most of companies ignore that thing.
It used to be maybe 30 years ago that companies had production, sales, accounting, right? That's it. Then all of a sudden, because this pizza pie we said before is becoming much more rich, and therefore more opportunities to do things because we know more, we have more tools. So combinations can happen really nicely. Some companies started developing new products. And all of a sudden, if over a few years, it was a necessary element of the company, the new product production, right? It wasn't like a luxury or an idea we have. It was a part of the company. Now, new product production immediately sets up the creativity element, okay? And the creativity element can be from very risky, like Musk is doing, right? Elon Musk, which is very risky. I mean, he took the rockets business and did it at 1/10 of the cost of NASA, right? Okay, that is a creative approach. And creative approach, I'm going to be a little bit strict on this, has to do with how far your creativity goes, has to do with how demanding you are in your outcomes. When Jobs said that I want to have a phone that actually is a computer, right? He made the smartphone. Let's not forget, it was him that made the smartphone. Everybody told him it can be done. Everybody.
Impossible, yeah.
But if he said, we're going to do it, the more you start thinking about, the more you believe that you will do it, the more you want to do it, creativity starts to creep in and solutions appear. But when you're next to a leader with a leadership mentality that we will get there, don't worry, guys, it thinks very far like Columbus, right? We'll get there.
The will to do it.
Right. It happens. The belief that we will find it, the belief that I want this to happen, it will happen. And I must add, this is something that has to personal life. Okay? Personal life has to do with how much you want and insist and believing that this will happen.
Yeah, you're persistent to lead that, and that's what will lead to give a great value. I really want to thank you, Dr. Theofanis. And what would be your last message to our audience?
Take risks, smile to your friends, and build value with everything you make.
Thank you. Thank you, and wish you all the success. And looking forward to see you on different episodes. Thank you.
Thank you too. Nice to see you again.